joining me today. I'm super excited to be able to share some of the basic features of Lacai and what it can do with you all. I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on Lacai. We've been around since 2009. I used to work in the TRIO kind of world. I was a TRIO student at the University of North Texas myself, and so that's kind of how I found out about TRIO. I honestly never knew about TRIO. I had no clue until my dad told me on the way home from an orientation at UNT when I was going to be a freshman, oh, there's a TRIO program and you're eligible, because I was in Upward Bound. I never knew that my dad was in Upward Bound at Texas State, or it was Southwest Texas State when he was growing up. And so I was in the SSS program, and then I ended up graduating and working for the Upward Bound, and then actually became the talent search director at Texas State, which is where I ran into Richard. And so that's the need for something, a database that was easier for my staff. That need, we relayed that need to Richard, who was working with IT at Texas State. And so he actually built Lacai from the ground up. And like I said, we've been around since 2009. So we tried to make it as user-friendly as possible. We have our website that I have up here. If after the meeting you have any other kind of additional questions, we do have our website, mylacai.com. I know that there are several people from your side, but I do want to hop straight into Lacai because it's going to take me a little bit to get through some of the kind of key features that I want to hop into today. So on a regular basis, we are going to be, having introductions and things like that. But unfortunately, I'm not sure that we'll be able to, do that today. I want to make sure to get through all of the features. So I do have Richard in chat. If you have any questions, feel free to shout them out to me, stop me, interrupt me, or he can also answer some of those questions in chat. So I'm going to be using the talent search and SSS sandbox sites for our demonstration today. So the shell of Lacai is going to be similar across all programs. The only difference is going to be when it comes to putting in data for your APR. Okay, so basically, I'm going to be hopping between these two databases today, which is going to be Talent Search and SSS. Any Lacai site that you have, should you decide to move forward or utilize Lacai in the future, you will have your own dedicated website. So I'm going to go ahead and log into our Lacai site for Talent Search really quickly. And at the forefront, or on your home screen, or what we like to refer to as our splash page, you will see your students. Kind of the reason why you come to work every day is your students. You do what you do for them. And so on our Talent Search Sandbox site, you're going to see your students at the forefront. We do have some built-in groups in Lacai, and those built-in groups are going to be the all students group, meaning any student that you have had in your program. The Your Students group, which are going to be those students that are designed or kind of put towards those are your caseload. And I'll show you kind of how you can put students into the Your Students group in just a minute. The active students, of course, are going to be those students that you're currently serving this fiscal year. And then for Talent Search, you're going to have the inactive students group, and those are going to be the ones that you are no longer tracking for APR purposes. Of course, you are going to have your trackers. So those students that have graduated high school and have enrolled in a PSC, you're tracking those for APR purposes. And then the last one is going to be our pending students group. Now, Lacai does have a built-in application. Should you decide to utilize it, when a student submits that application, they're automatically going to drop into the pending students group. Okay, so I'll show you what that looks like really quickly. And I have a list of a couple of my pending students. And so as a staff member utilizing Lacai, I would be able to click on, let's say, Angela here, and I would be able to view her application and the answers to decide whether or not she is eligible for our program. Now, as you can see at the very top, it does give you a little bit of a hint as to whether your student qualifies as low income. So this student has a family size of 5 with an income of $23,489, which tells you that this student does qualify as low income. And we utilize the Department of Education low income guidelines. If I were to click on this low income, it does have that link to the Department of Education's website. Okay, so this gives me the opportunity to know that this student is low income, and then I can look through the application and find out whether or not the student is first generation. And so basically, based off of our question of the parent's education level, this student does qualify as a low income and first generation college student. And so that is what a pending student kind of the process would be. I would be able to come in here and say, yes, this student is accepted into my program. And I could put in the notes that says Angela is LIFG and accepted. Now, of course, your notes are going to be a little bit more in depth than mine are, but I am able to add that status. If, let's say, for example, that your student has is missing something, or it's missing some information, or perhaps you need to put them on a wait list for the time being because you are already have met your numbers, these statuses can be implemented as well. So once I click on add status, you'll be able to see the date that I added her as an accepted student, the staff member's name who accepted them, and the notes. And like I said, these statuses, you can add as many as you need to. So if I needed to wait on some pending information or something like that, I can add as many of these statuses as necessary until she is accepted or waitlisted. So the next step after I accept a student into Lacai is to make sure that I add in a program info begin date. And so you'll notice that this student, even though I put that she was accepted, I need to come in here and put her eligibility. So you'll notice that as soon as this student submitted this application, all of the name, address, cell phone, all of that information automatically went into her student profile. Now I can come in here and put in that she is low income and first generation, and then go ahead and put in her start date. We'll go with today as her start date. And so she's listed as pending until I click on the update button. And now Lacai will automatically put her into the 2023 cohort as an active student. Okay, so let me go ahead and dive into a student that has a little bit more information on their, so let's go ahead. I'll use, let's see, Jose as my example. Okay, so you've already seen the main profile tab, and that's going to be their contact information. You are able to text as well as email from Lacai, so it's always really important that you have an accurate cell phone number as well as email. We do offer the availability if a student lets you know that they do not want to receive text messages or emails from you. We do have that opt-out ability. And then the next column is going to be the demographic information. You are able to upload photos of your students. I know that with Talent Search, it may not be ideal unless your school district gives you their school photos. But for programs like Upward Bound and sometimes SSS, they do upload those photos. For SSS, as long as you have it, the student university allows you that information, you can upload those as well. And then you'll notice that you have a box of these custom groups you can put students into as well. And so I'll go over a little bit more about those custom groups a little bit later on in the demo. The program info tab, under each student, they're going to have a program info tab, and that is going to be where we put in that begin date earlier for our new student. You're also going to have things like their end date, their citizenship, their primary language spoken at home. And then here, where it says assigned, is where you're able to assign a staff member to that student. So for example, when I talked about the Your Students group earlier, I am able to assign a staff member so that this student will be in my caseload when I log into the Your Students group in Lacai. I'm also able to add notes under the program info tab. Now, these notes can definitely be whatever you need them to be, whether a student is on academic probation or maybe the student's parents are going through a divorce and they need some extra support or something like that. So those notes can go in there. I also like to recommend that programs enter if they do exit a student or if the student moves away out of the target area, that they put that end date and the notes to match. So if Jose were to move out of the target area and they're no longer able to serve him, that the end date as well as the notes match in here. So if I was to exit him, let's just say today, I would make sure that I put in 6/12/24. Jose moved to Colorado and was exited due to no longer living in target area. Okay, so I want to make sure that in case there is a site visit that, yes, I have an end date, but why was he exited? I need to put that somewhere. And so I always want to make sure that they put the date as well as the information that would match that exit date. In the next column, I have the activities. Now, the activities are going to be the same across any Upward Bound SSS McNair Lacai site. Now, these activities are not going to be the same as contacts. These are going to be things like, what are they involved in extracurricular wise? Do they have, volunteering? Did they participate in football or soccer, tennis? Do they volunteer in maybe their church, or are they a part of any organizations, HOSA, Student Council, National Honor Society? And so you're able to put what they're involved in extracurricular wise as a part of their activities. Now, this assists any talent search and Upward Bound program, especially when they're applying for scholarships or to the different colleges for post-secondary enrollment. This will allow for you all to kind of see, okay, yes, as a freshman, you were involved in student council and football. As a junior, you were involved in choir and HOSA, or you were president of the National Honor Society, or things like that. And that allows for you to make it a little bit easier when you're applying or helping them apply for scholarships and things like that, or build a resume. We do have a little type of resume or something similar to that. If I was to click on the little icon here, you're able to kind of get like PDF of the things that they were involved in as well. All right. So the next tab over is going to be the Connections tab. And this one will allow for you, whether you're a talent search or Upward Bound program or SSS, to go ahead and keep track of the parent or guardian information. If you're an SSS program, maybe perhaps you're not keeping track of the parents per se because your students are adults, but you may want to keep track of an emergency contact or something like that. So we do have some built-in options, but anytime that you see a pencil in Lacai, it allows for an administrator, such as a director, to go ahead and modify that drop-down menu. Okay, so you're able to add or modify the different options that you have across Lacai in your drop-down menu. So, for example, this student has his father And so I can go ahead and keep track of the, emergency contact cell phone number. This also does take into consideration when a student puts in their connection information on their application. It also does put the information in here for you. So you'll notice that when this student applied for the program, we have his father as having that high school diploma, which allows for you to see that they are first generation. Okay. So like I said, you are able to modify this. If I was an SSS program and I only wanted to find out, okay, I would like an emergency contact number, I can go ahead and add that information in to my drop-down menu. And once I close that, you'll see that emergency contact information is now a part of your drop-down menu. Okay. All right. Now here's going to be the meat and potatoes of kind of what you're going to be tracking on an annual basis for your students, and that's going to be the annual profile tab. Now, this is going to be different for our talent search programs, and I'm going to show you the SSS one shortly, and the SSS, Upward Bound, and McNair are all going to look very similar. So for talent search first, let me go ahead and show you what that one will look like. My student here, Jose, has a 9th grade and a 10th grade annual profile. So basically, each student is going to have an annual profile for each fiscal year that they are in your program. Okay. With Talent Search, your annual profile statuses are going to live under the annual profile tab. In order to modify one of my items or my annual profiles here, I'm going to click on my green arrow and calendar icon. We do have the ability to delete one. Very rarely does that occur, but it is there if you needed it. So I'm going to go ahead and show you kind of where those annual profiles are going to live. By clicking on my green arrow icon, you'll notice that all of my statuses are listed under here. So the A status on whether they were promoted or not is going to be here. The B statuses, did they receive their diploma? Was it standard, rigorous, and so forth? So you can add in the necessary items that you need. So if this student, I'll go ahead and actually go to a senior. Let me try Tori here. Tori here, so as a 6th through 11th grade student, your items may not be as full here as a senior. That's because a senior is going to have more statuses that Department of Ed is looking for, whether they enrolled in PSC, did they apply for financial aid, and did they receive their diploma. When it comes to those 6th through 11th grade students, they might have more along the lines of those CPP information. Were they served by any other program? Were they in dual enrollment, and so forth? Okay, so all of those items are good for a 6th through 11th grade student. But when it comes to having a senior student, you want to make sure that you're adding in those necessary items on their diploma statuses, their PSC enrollment, and their financial aid information. So Tori here is a good example of, as an 11th grader, she was promoted from that grade level into her senior year. And then, of course, she's got the information necessary in order for the Department of Ed to see that she did enroll at UTSA. And she did apply for the FAFSA and things like that. So the annual profile is going to be the most important tab probably, so that you're able to put in the information for it to be output on the APR for Department of Education. And I'll go over that and what it looks like in Lacai in our reporting demo part. Any questions for talent search staff members about how to enter this profile, annual profile information for your APR? Okay, I don't see that anybody has raised their hand, and I do see that we have some information going back and forth in chat. So that's great. If y'all have any questions, Richard is available to answer those questions. I'll go ahead and move into the SSS site, and that one's going to be very similar, like I said, to Upward Bound and McNair. Okay, so let me utilize my friend Arthur here. Now you'll notice that the annual profile tab for SSS, McNair, and Upward Bound, they're not necessarily, you're going to still have one per fiscal year that they are in your program. But if I needed to modify something, I'm not necessarily going to click on my green arrow button. Instead, you're going to notice that you have a gear icon. Okay, so for SSS, Upward Bound, and McNair, you're going to go ahead and click on that gear icon, and it's going to bring up your APR information in a different menu, different than that talent search one. So with this, you're able to go ahead and modify the different fields for your APR as necessary. Okay, so this is the SSS one, and you'll notice that the fields go ahead and start with 16 through 37. So Lacai, those previous fields 1 through 15, Lacai does pull that information from the student's profile, name, date of birth, and information like that. Starting with 16, you'll be able to modify that information for each student on an annual basis. Okay. We do try to make it a little bit easier for you. Instead of having to flip from screen to screen or from website to website, we did include the instructions. And so if you were to click on the number of the field, we do pull up the instructions so that you're able to, you know, save a little bit of time instead of having to go from screen to screen. So you'll read your instructions, close out, and be able to modify that field as necessary. For example, we do a little bit of checking. Arthur here is a continuing student as a senior. So next fiscal year, he would become a prior year student. And so when I click over to prior year, we do kind of do the highlighting for you, because if field 22 is prior year, then the other items highlighted in red will have to change as well. So it gives you a little bit of error checking there. This one would have to change, and this one would have to change to prior year, and so forth. Okay. Other than that, like I said, from fiscal year to fiscal year, the information does roll over. This is not something that you would have to update each field manually on an annual basis. The ones that you will have to change, from fiscal year to fiscal year are going to be things like their participant status. If they were new in the previous fiscal year and they're going to be continuing this year, then, you might have to change that. And then their academic standing, their GPA, starting grade level. Those freshmen through juniors are going to, need that information. And then once they become seniors, you'll go on to fields 28 through 37 and be able to modify whether they received their bachelor's, when they received it, the date wise, what was their field in, and things of that nature. Okay. But for the most part, the majority of the APR data will roll over from fiscal year to fiscal year, so that you're not having to modify it on an annual basis, at least all of it. Some of this you will. Okay, any questions for my Upward Bound, SSS, McNair, VUB, or anything UBMS programs when it comes to data collection and or putting the data into Lacai? Are there any questions before I move forward? No? Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on then. I'm going to hop back into my talent search one. My contacts tab is going to be the next item that I go over. Now you can see here that Tori has several contacts for the fiscal year of 23-24. You'll notice that we do have our fiscal year out here to the side, as well as our pencil. I know that there were several talent search and upward bound programs that have a 10/1 start date. And so we do offer that pencil for those directors. We have a few of our customers, not very many, but a few of our customers who have that 10/1 start date instead of the 9/1. And so we wanted to make sure that their fiscal year, when it came to those contacts, was accurate. I also wanted to let you know that these are going to be broken down by fiscal year. So if I wanted to see a previous fiscal year, let's use my 22-23, you'll notice that they're going to still be there. They're not, Tori has been in our program for several years, and so her list of contacts would be very long. And so instead of having our customers having to scroll through the different years and things like that, we broke them down by fiscal year so that there wasn't a lot of having to scroll and things like that. Okay, so we'll be able to see all of the contacts for the current fiscal year here. If you ever wanted or needed a printout of your students' contacts, let's say, for example, their parent is asking for their contacts from the fiscal year so far up to today's date, you are able to print that for them. It'll put the student's name at the front. Although you see our logo on here, each of our customers, you can email us a logo, and then your logo would be here instead of the Lacai one. So you'll notice that we have all of Tori's contacts listed here. So you're able to print this for the parent or the student if necessary. And under the contacts tab is where you will enter an individual contact. So if I met with Tori one-on-one, I would be able to enter that contact here for Tori, okay? Simply by putting in the date. So let's say, for example, I met with Tori on the 7th, and I met with her on an individual basis. So I can change the type to individual. And you will notice you see the pencils out here. So you do have access to modify the different types, as well as the staff member. Since I am logged in already, I am the staff member that's highlighted as meeting with Tori. It is possible, let's say that Martina helped me. We did this one-on-one or two-on-one with Tori. You are able to highlight more than one staff member at a time. You're also able, if you are assisting one of your colleagues to enter some contacts, you are unable to unhighlight your name. And if I'm helping Martina enter her contacts because she was ill for a couple of weeks and now she's back in the office, I can help her. Okay. The next step would be to click on where it says add service or skill. And this way I can go ahead and choose, what did I work with Tori on? Was it a goal setting activity? And I can put in how many minutes that I met with her for goal setting. I can add in as many services and skills as I need to. If I accidentally added in one too many, I'm simply going to click on my red minus symbol here, and I have the ability to just subtract or delete that service right there. So I'll go ahead and put in some quick notes really quickly. So I'll say met with Tori. Am I on Tori? Yes. Okay. And then I can simply go ahead and click on add contact. Okay. So you'll see that information is there for you. The amount of minutes, what my notes said, things like that. Okay. Now I am going to kind of go over why are there's papers on this one and a map on this one. And so Lacai does give you the opportunity. So if you were meeting with your student one-on-one, like I did with Tori here, there are some programs who would like for their students to acknowledge and accept that they did receive these services. So we do have that feature that allows that. You would click on the paper and pencil icon, and that will bring up a box that will allow for your student to confirm that they did indeed receive these services. So I can sign off as Tori here. And excuse my signature, I'm just using my mouse, so I apologize. So I've got that there. Now, for this individual contact, you now see the piece of paper icon. And if I click on that paper, you're going to see this signature that Tori just signed off on. And then you'll also have the geolocation. Okay. I will go over how to put in group contacts in just a few minutes, but I'm going to go ahead and continue going on through the student's profile so that you can go ahead and see everything that is in their profile. The next tab is going to be the Documents tab. Now, the Documents tab allows for you to upload items, things like a medical release or letters of recommendation, a student aid report. Okay, so you'll have the opportunity to go in and upload and or view these. I was always a staff member who on college tours or cultural enrichment activities had that backpack with a thick binder of all of the students' medical releases, especially on a college tour that can get kind of heavy. So with this, you're able to actually upload things like a medical release form into Lacai at this college tour or cultural enrichment activity. You're able to log into Lacai and have access to that medical release right here in Lacai instead of having to carry a binder full of those. Okay. So if an emergency were to occur, you'd be able to log into Lacai and contact the guardian or parent or emergency contact. The Documents tab is also going to house where our surveys live. So we do have a survey feature in Lacai, and you'll notice here that Tori has completed these surveys. So you'll be able to see the name of the survey, when the survey opens and closes, when the student accessed that survey, when they completed it. Okay. You'll also have a little printer icon that allows for you to see that survey. So if I click on the printer icon, you'll be able to see how Tori answered those questions. Okay. Most of our customers use the surveys for their needs assessment, maybe to see what kind of workshops their students would like to see in the upcoming semester and things like that. The Schedule tab is going to allow for programs like SSS or even Upward Bound to go ahead and put in the students' schedules. For Talent Search, not very many of our Talent Search customers utilize that schedule, but when it comes to SSS as well as Upward Bound, especially, they can put their summer programming in. So some of our customers, our Upward Bound customers, will put in the different courses or classes that they're going to be having in the summertime. And then, of course, for SSS, it allows for you to go ahead and either utilize our feature called Data Sync that would allow for Lacai to go ahead and work with IT to kind of work with their student information system, whether it's Banner or Colleague or any of those other ones. That way, this type of data, like their schedule and grades and things like that, GPA would automatically utilize our data sync feature to put that information straight into Lacai. That data sync is an additional charge, just so that you know. It's an additional $500 per fiscal year, but for all of our customers that utilize it, it is definitely it pays itself off because it saves you the time of having to put that information in. So let me see if I can find one that has Tori's fall. No. Well, I'll go ahead and there we go. With this schedule feature, if you're not utilizing that data sync feature, you are able to put your courses into Lacai and add in, let's just say she's in algebra and bio 2 and maybe English 3. So you're able to put this information for her schedule in here. Then when we go to the grades tab, you're able to keep track of their grades. So you can see that Tori has a lot of previous fiscal years, and she's got her GPA, how many hours it was worth, and her rank and things like that. So If you are keeping track in the schedule tab of their courses, you're going to be able to keep track of their grades as well under the grades tab. Under the grades tab, you're also going to have the opportunity to keep track of any test scores, whether it's SAT, ACT, GRE things, state-based testing. So with that pencil, you're able to modify the drop-down menu to meet the needs of your program. Okay. Let's see. Before I forget, I did want to make sure that I show you for talent search or even SSS and Upward Bound, we do have what we call a 4-year plan. And so if you're putting their information in here, you're able to go ahead and populate what were they in their 9th grade year? What was their 10th grade year? What did that look like? And things of that nature. So this is great if you're working with your students and assisting them to plan. So I know that some of our talent search programs and Upward Bound programs plan out with their students. Okay, when you meet with your counselor, you want to make sure that you enroll in the right courses. And so you create that plan with them. That way they're not going in. If their parents aren't able to make it into the meeting with their counselor every year, they are empowered and they know, okay, this is what I would like to take this next semester. Okay. It does give you the green if they did pass it, red if they did not. You're also going to notice that it keeps track of their GPA across time, as well as any recent test, the recent services that they have received as well. And so we like to call this our course or 4-year plan or course schedule. Okay. All right. And then that brings us back to the application tab, which is kind of where I started. So are there any questions before I move into our other menus across the top? Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and dive in to the student drop-down menu. If you do not utilize the application that's built into Lacai, this is where you would go in order to add in a new student. So if you're utilizing a paper application, you would be able to come into the student drop-down menu and click on Add Student to go ahead and put in their student ID, their name, their address, phone number, and so forth. So you'll put in all of this information and be able to go ahead and click on Save so that you're able to put that student into Lacai. The next item that I wanted to go over is you're able to go in and add in a group contact. Okay, so under the student drop-down menu, we have what we call our group actions menu, which opens up several different things for you to enter here. Things like if you needed to create a group, if you needed to update their annual profile in a group fashion, the annual rollover is going to be here as well. And this feature is done on an annual basis. And so it's just that one time per year. So these features are readily available for you in Lacai. I know that we're on an hour time frame today, so I wanted to dive straight into where you would go to enter a group contact. You'll notice it looks very similar to the individual contact, but now you have access to your list of students. Okay, so if I was going to put in a contact that happened on June 4th, it was a group contact, and I did, let's say, some team building and leadership for an hour in my workshop. And I can go ahead and say, met with students to work on leadership skills and team building. Okay, now I've got all of that information filled in here. Now I can go ahead and say, okay, what students signed in? Who signed into this workshop? So in Lacai, you'll notice that I could go in here and check who did this on an individual basis or who attended. A faster way would be for you to go ahead and click on my bolded grade level. When I do that, it's going to highlight or check all of those students at once for me. It's easier for me to say that Crystal was not able to make it and neither was Amy than it would be to individually check those. So now I can go ahead and click on my button that says Add Group Contact. And you'll notice here that 14 students were updated. Okay, so the individual contact and the group contact will look very similar on this top portion, but that group contact will allow for you to enter contacts for a larger group at one time instead of having to go in and put these in individually. So the next item that I wanted to go over is going to be our email and texting feature. This one will allow for you to send emails to your students. You'll see here that it's going to be coming from whoever is logged in, sending the email. You can send emails to the student's email address, to the primary connections email address. So earlier you saw that Jose's father was listed as the primary connection, so you can email students, parents, or both. Okay. So it's going to look very similar to the way that you may utilize your email, like Gmail or Outlook or something like that now. So you'll go ahead and put your subject line. So we'll go ahead and say college road trip as our subject line. Now, there are two different formats that you can utilize in Lacai to send your emails, either a text format or HTML. I do not know HTML, but if you do, then you're simply going to click on here and write your message out with HTML. Okay. I'm going to use text since I don't know HTML. So I'm going to go ahead and I could put dear students, or if I wanted to individualize this email so that the student's first name would be, I would go ahead and click on the merge field. I've got student ID, first name, email, cell phone, things like that. So I'm simply going to click on that first name. And I know it looks funny, but when the student opens up their email, it's going to say, Dear Tori, Dear Myron, Dear Jacob. So it's going to be individualized for that student. So I'm going to go ahead and say, please join us for this summer's college tour. Okay, sincerely, Monica. Okay, now I can also attach a flyer. So if I've got my college tour here, I've got all of the information, the different colleges that we're going to be visiting, the dates, the times, everything like that. I can go ahead and attach that here. Okay. So we do want to make sure that when you're attaching the file that it's not larger than, I believe, 3 megabytes. But you do have that available to you so that you can attach that flyer so that the students can find out all of the details. From there, you're simply go ahead and click on the students that you want to send this email to, and then you'll click on send email. Now, the next screen that you're going to see is the different list of students that you sent this to. Now you'll notice I do have a red exclamation mark. Grover here may have opted out or does not have an email. Okay, so you'll be able to see the green check marks if it did go through to those students. Okay, you can either send another email, go to your home screen, or if you are a program who wants to keep track of the different emails that you are sending, you are able to create a contact as well. So you go ahead and click on create contact. All of the information is already going to be in there for you. The only thing that you as a staff member are going to have to do is add the service or skill. Okay, so we talked about in this email, we're going to be talking about a college trip, a visit. So I can go ahead and mark it as a career college visit. Information that I sent out to my students via email. My message is here already. Now I can just go ahead and click on add group contact here. And those 21 students have been updated. Okay. Texting is going to be very similar to what you're used to already as well. This texting feature is more of a one-way mode of communication, okay? So if you're texting your students a reminder, all of my students are going to be going, let's say, to a college tour tomorrow morning. We're leaving at 8 a.m. I can send out that information via text. So I can say, meet at the flagpole at 8 a.m. to leave for the college tour. Okay. Now I'm sending this information out. I don't expect for my students to respond to me. I can go ahead and click on the students who I'm going to email. Just so you know, we do have those merge fields available in texting as well. So you're able to say first name. So if I was put James, comma, meet us at the flagpole tomorrow at 8 a.m., you're able to do that as well. So I'll go ahead and click on send text. Of course, I don't have that information in here, but that's okay. You would have that information in here, so you don't have to worry about that part. Let's see. Any more information? Oh, there is two-way texting. So when I said that this one built into Lacai is more of a one-way mode of communication, we do offer an availability of what we call two-way texting and voice for an additional charge of $180 per fiscal year per line. I'll go ahead and if Richard will go ahead and maybe dive in a little bit deeper into that and kind of what makes it different than the built-in one.
Sure, Monica. So the two-way texting, what you get with that for the 180 per year, you get a 10-digit local phone number that's tied to your Lacai database, that allows the students to be able to send actual unsolicited messages to you, and those drop right into Lacai. And then any of these messages, whether you send them out as a group, you can also send individual text messages with the two-way text directly under that student's profile, and you can see that history of the back and forth in that student's profile. So you can pull up those text messages, and you can also place voice calls, and Lacai will track the duration and time and to who those calls were made, all through the Lacai web application here. So of course, with voice, you'd want to make sure you have a mic and audio set up to properly make those calls. But yeah, and you can have multiple lines per database. So if you want to have a line per staff, you can also share lines across different staff. So if your coordinator wanted their own line and the two advisors wanted to share a line, you can do that. So if there are any questions about that, feel free to shout those out or drop them in chat.
Perfect. Thank you, Richard. All right. The next drop-down menu that you're going to see is our calendar drop-down. And we do recommend that each of our programs utilize what we call a program calendar and grant all of their staff access to that calendar. And that is so that you're able to utilize some of our other features in Lacai. We do have what we call creating an event, and that allows for you to create the event ahead of time, as well as enter in all of the contact information. Therefore, you would be able to have your students sign in electronically, and the contact would automatically be written in Lacai once they sign in. Okay, so we also have our open check-in available for use as well. Open check-in is most likely going to be utilized by our Upward Bound and SSS programs. And this will allow for you as an Upward Bound director or SSS director to go ahead and have your students put in their ID number and when they're coming in. So let's just say I'm an Upward Bound program and I'm offering the after school tutoring. My students would come in here and put in their ID number. Let me see if I can grab their ID number really quickly. Let me grab Tori's here. Now, if I was Tori and I'm coming to meet with my tutor, I can go in and put my ID number here. Say, okay, I'm here to see Kathy and I'm going to be working on some essay writing. Okay, so I can sign in as Tori and put my sign in there. Now in green, it says that I'm signed in. I meet with my advisor or my tutor for an hour or 30 minutes, whatever the case may be. And then Tori would come back out and put in her ID number again. Now, I know I did not speak for more than a minute, but Lacai does calculate the amount of time that Tori was in meeting with her advisor or her tutor. Therefore, it would go ahead and calculate the amount of minutes. And when I go to Tori's contacts tab, I will be able to see, again, I know I didn't speak for more than a minute, which is why it says 0 minutes here. But if I did meet with my advisor for 30 minutes or 42 minutes or 53 minutes, it would go ahead and calculate the amounts of minutes for you. And you would be able to see that information in a contact format. Okay. All right. I know I've got less than 10 minutes to go through my reports, but I do want to go over a couple of the most important ones or most utilized by our customers. So I'm going to go ahead and dive into the reports drop-down menu for Custom Builder. The Custom Builder allows for you to run reports based off of any of these different fields, whether it's name, who they're assigned to, maybe begin date. So if I want to look for students that started in 9/1/2023 to the current date, I would be able to see a list of students who had a begin date during that time frame. I can search on things like schools and grade level as well. So anytime that I want something to be output, I'm going to check the box next to that field. Okay. The majority of our reports can be output in the browser format, which is what you're going to see right now, or a CSV output. Okay, so I'm able to run different data fields by just checking the boxes. That's what's going to be output in my report. You can search against any group in Lacai, so whether it's the built-in groups or custom built groups that you as a staff have created, and simply generate report. And then you'll be able to see that report here. Again, this is our custom builder. You're able to, the amount or number of reports that you can get out of the custom builder are numerous, because you could run it so many different ways. And so that's our custom builder. And the majority of our reports, you can create groups out of the report output, as well as save different reports as well. So the next popular one, of course, is going to be our contacts report. That's going to be under the reports drop-down menu, group reports, and contacts report. So of course, that one's a popular one when it comes to maybe directors might ask for their staff members to do a monthly contacts report to them. And so you are able to choose your start and end date. So you can run a contacts report on any time frame that you need. Again, you're going to see the different fields that you can output on your different reports here. So if I wanted to run a report for, let's just say, group contacts between the start of my fiscal year and today's date, I can do that. You'll see or notice that I only clicked on group here. So I don't have to necessarily click or check type, because I already know that all of the contacts in my report are going to be group. I can go ahead and run this report with the date of this group. I want to know the staff member who created or input this contact, the service, and let's say I want to see if they have signatures. So now I've got student ID, date, and service hours also checked. I'm going to run this against my active group of students. So I'm going to select all. So if I'm a talent search group, of course, you're going to see some scrolling. So if at any point in time you have a large group of students and you don't want to scroll, simply check this hide checkbox. That'll shrink up the list of students and you'll be able to see the view contact report button at the bottom. So now I'm able to see the list of contacts, the student's name, the ID, the date, the staff member, the signature, the services that we provided, and the hours. Okay. The contacts report can also do, if I want to see students who, let's say, have less than or equal to 2 contacts. I don't need signature anymore. And I don't need date or this one. I just want a list so that I can pull out these students from the school or, email or call them to come and meet with me. I want to see that list of students so I can tell just based off this report which students have 0 contacts or 1 contact. That way I can call them in so that I can meet with them and provide them the services that they need. Okay. All right, another popular one is going to be listed under our summary report, and that's going to be our demographic summary. Again, you can run this across any fiscal year or group of students. I'll just go ahead and keep it as is. So I'm running this for 23-24 against my active students. You'll be able to see the eligibility breakdown and percentages. It'll be broken down by grade level, ethnicity, gender, age, the different schools that they're attending, their anticipated graduation year, and zip code. If at any point in time you needed to maybe present to your schools or your supervisor, the deans, on campus, you are able to right-click on these charts and save or copy image as and put that into your presentation. Okay. And then, of course, the one that most people are going to want to know about is going to be the annual performance report. With that one, you'll be able to click on the fiscal year and click on submit here. It will give you the information output for section 1, of course, that contact information. For section 2, demographics. How many of them are new? How many of them are continuing? What is their eligibility and so forth? So for talent search, it's going to give you the numbers that you are going to be entering on your APR website. So you'll be able to have all of this information at your fingers as long as it has been entered into the student's annual profile tab. So for example, let me see the students that completed the FAFSA. So earlier when I was going over the annual profile tab, we went over how to add in, did the student apply for financial aid? If so, was it FAFSA? Was it scholarships? And so with talent search, that's a really important one that you want to go ahead and make sure that you're putting in. Did they complete their FAFSA? Yes or no? Their CPP services, did they enroll in PSC? And so for talent search, this is what the APR is going to look like. Okay. Now for SSS and Upward Bound, it's going to look more like this one for the reports and annual performance. We've got the fiscal year, and then we'll click on submit, and you're able to click on preview section 2. And of course, your view is going to be more of an Excel spreadsheet so that you'll be able to see, okay, this student here has a lot of yellows. Why? Okay, let me go ahead and take a look. I can go ahead and click on that student. Oh, they are a new student for this fiscal year, so I can go in and make the modifications that I need to in order to have all of their student data put in. Okay, so the SSS is going to have, it's going to be more of a Excel spreadsheet. And then that way, when you're done and all of your information is no longer yellow, all of those unknowns have been completely done, you'll be able to click on the Excel spreadsheet here, and that's what you're going to be downloading from Lacai and uploading to the APR site. Okay. Questions, because I know that I went over a lot of information today. There are definitely a lot more features that Lacai has, but I know that I want to respect your time and appreciate the fact that you all wanted to hear a little bit more about Lacai. But are there any last minute questions? Okay.
Thank you so much, Monica. This has been
You are
great.
most
And
welcome.
to Richard, thank you both so much for sharing all of this with us. And I look forward to sharing this out to the whole membership so they will also get to see it
Perfect.
as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you again to everybody for joining us today. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us at support@mylacai.com. I think Richard will go ahead and put that in the chat. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to email us and we can get you a little bit more information or a demo site that you and your staff can kind of add contacts to and take a deeper dive into each program. Okay.
Wonderful.
All right. Y'all have a great afternoon. Bye-bye, everybody.